What is the gel press and can you use it in card making? Yes, you can. I made probably 15 to 20 backgrounds in today's video. The first half of the video shows you the different backgrounds I made. The second half of the video turns them all into cards. Hello, it's so much fun. It's easy. You don't need any experience. You just do it. Like Nike says, just do it. Let's check it out. So here is a look at my gel press. I'm going to be using two 8x10 gel presses today. They also come in 5x7, 6x6, round. So there's lots of different sizes. I'm using Ardyth acrylic paints, which I do have a 10% off coupon code down in the description. I'm using a couple of brayers, a 4-inch and a 2-inch, and I'm using some trash so I can clean my brayer, literally trash. This is some very inexpensive white cardstock that I got a ream of, which is 250 sheets for like 10 bucks. And also some Dina Wakley gloss spray, which I have never used. You can see the plastic on that. So I'm going to actually try that out for the first time in the video today. You do not need all of this stuff, by the way. Just hang with me. So I'm going to start by making a lot of prints, and then the second half of the video is going to be turning the prints into cards. So it's kind of like a two-part video. So this is my gel press. It's dirty. It's loved. I don't clean it. I just let all the paint kind of dry on there for the next time, and you'll see why in a minute. So I went ahead and added a couple of different colors of the acrylic paint. Now, I do recommend acrylic paint when you're doing any kind of gel pressing. I remember when oh gosh, this was 2 houses ago, I had a gel press, and I think I tried it one time, and I'm like, what is this? How am I going to use this in card making? And I got rid of it. And man, what a dumb move that was, because this is so much fun. I spent all morning making all of these presses. And the thing is, I don't want to say you don't need talent. You really don't. You just need to know what colors look good together. And there's really, I know there's a science behind it, so I shouldn't say there's no science behind it, but I just like throw colors on there that are visually pleasing. If they turn to mud, which in some prints will, I'll show you what you can do with that, all right? So just hang with me. So there's the first print. Again, I'm just pressing my white cardstock down onto the gel plate. That print, by the way, I don't like, but we're going to do something with that in a minute. And then just keep rolling. Now, I do encourage you to have a black and white paint, and there's reasons why, and I'll show you. So I went ahead and brayered all that on, just covering up all that paint that was underneath. Again, I do not clean my gel presses. You can if you want to. You can clean your stencils if you want to, but I don't. I don't like to clean. I just don't. So there's that print that I don't like it. So I brayered on some white paint, added a stencil that I cut from my Cricut, and boof, it kind of covered up some of the ugly parts of that print. Here is another stencil that, again, I cut from my Cricut, and I love this print. I love it, but I'm going to love it even more now. I'm adding that design, and because I brayered on black paint, added the stencil over the top of that, I'm going to pick up all that design, that black design, and check out that print. Hello. I'm going to make 2 really cool cards from that. Turn the second half of the video. So I kept that stencil in place. I'm adding some different colors, pink and orange, just whatever. I tend to gravitate towards bright colors. Obviously, do whatever floats your boat. There's a metallic line of acrylic paints that Ardyth offers as well, so you can try that out. I'm just doing the traditional plain Jane. They're not plain Jane. Well, they are. There's no metallic, is what I'm trying to say in a really bad way, because I need more coffee. Anyway, so I'm going to take my print, just basically pressing, like my term, take my print. I feel so accomplished by saying I'm going to take the print. Just basically you're pressing your cardstock on there, and that's a really pretty print. We're going to do a little bit more with that in a bit. So the first half of the video is just all about experimenting and making different backgrounds that you can turn into cards. Okay, you really can. So that's all the paint that was left over on that press. I'm going to pick it up, and you get kind of like a ghost print. So it's kind of picking up what was left of the ghost prints are pretty cool. We'll probably do something with that too. I've made so many prints, I've just lost count of what I'm doing. So here is the acrylic gloss spray from Dina Wakley. Now this is actually acrylic paint in a spray form, which I have never seen on the market before. So it's basically acrylic paint in a spray bottle. Yep. So I'm just going to spray that onto my gel press there. And I'm going to press that down. Now, what is cool about leaving your paint on your gel press? You might wonder why I do that. It's not just because I don't want to clean it. I mean, it's part of it, to be honest. But you pick up all those patterns and stuff underneath. You never know what you're going to get, and it's so cool. So watch this. I'm going to pick up this first print, and I am in love with this. This will be my favorite of all the prints I made today, and I'm going to make 4 cards out of that. And then this other print, I'm going to go ahead and pick that up, and it picks up some of the design and the color that was underneath. See the black and the orange, and there's lots of details there. That's from the paint that was dried underneath, right? So you'll see what I mean as we keep going. So I'm going to try this again using the, what are these? The gloss sprays. Just make sure you give them a good shake before you use them because it is paint. I'm going to press that down, and this gives kind of like, it gives a little cool look to it, but I'm going to do more. So if you do a print and you don't like it, don't toss it. You can do layer upon layer upon layer upon layer and really have fun. So here's a little 6x6 stencil, and I'm going to add a little design to the center of that card. So I'm just brayering on what was left over on my brayer onto the stencil. I need a little bit more black. When it's kind of faded out a little bit, I don't like it. I like a good intense black, so I'm going to layer on a little bit more. And then I'm just going to carefully press parts of my stencil just in the center, or the paper, just in the center of that stencil, and then I get that really cool background. Now I'm going to make 2 cards out of this. All right, so hang with me. So moving on, let's start over again. Again, I'm leaving all of that dried up paint that was left behind right there on that gel press. No need to clean it up. You can do a couple of good, when I'm done gel pressing, I guess I should say, I do take 2 prints and I pick up all the paint, as much of the paint as I can from those 2 prints, and that's it. That's how I clean it. I just create 2 prints. Either I save it for next time or I toss the paper. It depends on, you know, what colors are left over. So I'm comparing the gloss spray to the left and the acrylic paint to the right, just to see what kind of look you get. The acrylic paint, let's just say it's a little bit more translucent. It's thinner, obviously, than the acrylic paint. But I am going to wet that paint. I use just a mister bottle, and because the spray paint, the gloss spray, whatever we're calling it, is more liquidy. So here's that, and you can see all the black and stuff that it picked up from the paint that was dried underneath what I put down. And here's this one. Obviously, it's more vibrant and thicker. And then you can actually get a really good second print from the acrylic paint side. So 2 different looks. Think thinner, more transparent with the gloss spray, and thicker and more vibrant with the acrylic paint. Let's do a rainbow. You know, I'm not going to proceed with this video until I do a little rainbow. So I'm just adding little dots of paint. You don't need a lot of paint because as you brayer it out, it's going to thin it out. And think also, the more paint you put down, well, there's some pros. The more paint you put down, the more prints you can get. But the con is it takes longer to dry. So before you go and add other colors over your paint, if you don't want them to mix, you have to let it dry first. So here's the print. I'm not going to like what I'm doing to the left, so just completely ignore that. That's not there. So there I'm going to take that little ghost print, if you will, and press it down onto the left-hand side, which didn't really float my boat. And then I'll take a plain piece of paper and pick up a new print on that right side to get my rainbow. Hi! This is really pretty. And just very rainbowy and vibrant and bright colors, and I like bright colors. See, I told you I didn't like that thing on the left. But I did press my stencil into it, so I was left with that design. You can kind of see the remnants of the design. So I'm basically taking the paint that's left over on the stencil and pressing it onto the gel plate to create some little designs and patterns, as you can see here. So because I'm using white paint, you can take a print that you don't like, which is this one I thought was quite ugly, and then I'm going to press that print down, and then it pretty much covers up all the ugly stuff, and it has a little bit of color peeking through, which I like. I think is quite pretty. So then I'm going to take that same stencil and brayer on some black right over the gel plate. Pick up the stencil, flip it over so the paint is facing down, and add some pattern to that other plate that has pretty much dried orange paint on it. So then I'm going to take this print here. Let's take a look. Whee, it's like I'm petting the acrylic block. And this is so pretty. Isn't that pretty? I dig it. Dig it, dig it, dig it. All right, so I like that. Then I kind of put all these on the ground and let them dry. Pretty much is what I'm doing here off camera. So let's go in with a little pink and orange. This time I'm kind of creating like a blob in the middle. I don't know if you can see that on the block there, but I wanted to see if I could get like a pink little blobby stripe in the middle. I don't know, but I did. I was able to achieve that. Meanwhile, the jelly plate to the left is just kind of drying a little bit with all those patterns that I smushed on there through a stencil. So there it is. I got my pink blobby stripe. I'm quite happy. And look at all that black and all those different designs and textures. They're coming through from the dried paint that was underneath. So this is the dried black paint with the stencil design I kind of pressed in there. And I'm going to brayer over some fresh black paint. And then I'm going to take a stencil. Now this stencil was wet. I didn't realize it until I put it down. I am brayering over black paint, but because that stencil was wet, look at this. I'm doing this in slow-mo. It's just like the paint is kind of just moving all around the plate there. It was really neat to watch. And then I'm going to take this print right here and press it onto that, and this kind of created like a blobby mess. Have no fear, we are going to do something with that. It's not what I thought it was going to be, but I'm not throwing it away. I feel like there was hope for that print. So I'm going to take the same stencil, which is now no longer wet, and I'm going to brayer right through it. And this is kind of like the inspiration from the original prints that I had done. I did some original pressing for the first time a couple weeks ago and shared some finished projects on my Instagram, and I actually got requests for a video, and I'm like, what? People want to see that? So there, I took that print and I used one of the prints I previously made at the beginning of the video that I didn't think would be awesome as a card background by itself without adding some kind of pattern to it. So I'm going to pull this other print in because I have all this paint left over on the stencil. I flip the stencil over paint side, I offset it just a little bit, and then I use some paper just to protect my hands, but they're already covered in paint anyway, to kind of basically I'm stamping with that stencil. And that left me with that print, which is cool. I'm not going to use it today, but then that left me with kind of like this offset cool pattern, which is great for a card background. So let's finish off this print. I'm going to lift it up and then you'll see this gorgeous background here. It was inspired by these cards here in the left-hand corner. I just inverted it. Basically, I wanted more of the black showing this time, whereas on those cards to the left, more of the color is showing. All right, so what are we going to do with all these? We're going to make cards, of course. So here's that first background that I made. I just love it. So what you do with these backgrounds are you just find places that you like. Find the designs that you like. If it's only parts of the design, cut it out. If it's the whole thing, great. You can make 4 cards out of it, which we'll do at some point. But here I'm just trimming out to get 2 card designs, 2 backgrounds. I'm kind of cutting away what I don't like, and I'm cutting it down. It'll either be to 4 by 5 1/4 or 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Those are the sizes that I always go to. Then any scraps that I think look pretty cool, any strips, I'll keep off to the side and maybe use them in future projects. But beware, that can build up fast if you're making lots of prints. So only keep the ones you like. So I'm going to adhere these down to just a teal card base, and I'm going into my magic mug. I actually have 2 magic mugs now. One magic mug holds die cuts and shapes and images, and another holds just sentiment strips. So I've grabbed 2 sentiment strips from the Ton stamp sets. It has a coordinating die. It's fantastic. And I'm going to be using this Barely Art glue that I love so much. It goes on white and it dries completely clear. I have had some questions because I'm also a big fan of the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. Do I still like that? Yes. This Barely Arts glue bottle, however, has more glue in it and the bottle is easier to squeeze for me. That's just a personal preference. I'll still use it all. If you're telling me to pick between one or the other, I'll choose the Barely Arts glue. So here is another print that I created. This is the one where I kind of smushed a little part of that stencil through the middle. So I'm going to cut that part off and leave that to the side because I'm going to make a card out of just that strip. And so what's left is I'm going to kind of figure out, you see me use my hands, I'm trying to figure out what will make a good card background. So I'm just going to trim it apart. I am using the Fisker Wire Guide trimmer. I've had this for like 10 years. It's got a little wire guide on it so I can see exactly where I'm cutting. I thought I would have a sentiment that coordinates with the colors on the background, so I pulled out my little swatch sheet of Catherine Puller inks that my friend Ardyth inspired me to make. And I'm just going to ink blend a little bit of that color that I thought matched the pink very well and adhere that sentiment. My hand, I've been playing tennis lately, by the way. I haven't picked up a tennis racket in 17 years at least. Tennis was my sport, and so I'm playing it with my kids, and my hand is so sore, which is why you see me holding the glue bottle so weird. Anywho, so the first card is done, finito. Now I'm going to take this second strip here, and I'm going to make a card just out of this. So I cut it down. I'm going to figure out what side do I want facing up, what side do I want facing down, what parts do I, want to cut off, etc. And I'm going to adhere that down to a card base. That card base is standard size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm just going to take a black marker and just kind of draw a line there to act as like a little border. You can also cut a strip of cardstock, but I'm lazy. Then I'm going into my magic mug with the shapes and pulling out just different things. I have them dumped off all on the side, so I'm basically just picking out of a pile. And like I said, I really enjoy using my magic mugs. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check up here in the right-hand corner because it takes all the guessing out of it. I have to use what's on my desk. And here are these 2 cards created from one background. So this is the print that I wanted that blobby stripe down the middle. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to cut it down. And I really wanted to accentuate that blobby stripe. That is such a bad term, but that's what it is. And I wanted it a little bit off to the left, so I cut it down exactly how I liked it. I'm using this beautiful clear stamp from Ellen Hudson, and I'm using this new Ulta New ink. I've never used it before until now. It's like a pigment ink. It's like called Obsidian or something like that. And it says it gives you really crisp lines, which it does. It's fantastic. However, because I never used it before, I didn't know it stays wet. So yeah, you're going to see me smear the top corner of that flower, and I'm going to be so upset. But I'm not redoing it. There is no way. I'm just going to roll with it. It adds to the art. So that's me giving my little fist like, "Urgh." But anyway, it's fine. Here's this card, and I love that pop of pink right there. I think that's so cool. All right, so this background, it's a lot looking at as an 8 1/2 by 11, but when you cut it down, it's super cool. So I actually am going to have 3 card panels from this print here. And I encourage you to mix and match. Mix your strips. Use those strips up. Find strips that you like. And I'm just kind of picking what I think would coordinate with this background from another print I had already cut down. And if you haven't, go ahead and click on that subscribe button and click that notification bell real quick so you'll be notified of any upcoming videos that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that strip down, and then I've got a little sentiment strip here. But I thought I would go ahead and ink the edges just to make sure it's a pre-cut sentiment strip on gray cardstock. I wish it was on white, but it wasn't, but I like the sentiment enough. So I just inked the edges with black, and because that's heat embossed, I can wipe away any of the black ink that got on the white lettering, and bada bang, bada boom. Now this, whoo, ugh, I don't like this. I just don't. So what do you do with prints that you don't like? Well, you can die cut them. Use your alpha dies, use background dies. Just use what you got. You can cut them down. So I've chose, this is actually a Christmas background cover plate from Ulta New, but not today. So I went ahead and glued that down to a yellow piece of cardstock, and I just think it looks so much cooler now. I had a pre-cut pink sentiment strip that just works very well with the pink, a little bit of pink that's showing in that print background. And then I'll take a clear glitter pen and just add a little bit of glitter, because who don't like a little bit of sparkle and shine on their projects? And this pen puts out a ton of glitter, by the way. And then here's a look at that card. Cool. That little bit of pattern from that print that I really didn't care for, I think turned into a beautiful background. Now this one is too grungy for me. There's too much of that black coming through. This is what I made with the gloss sprays. So I'm going to take some flowers that are just like outline flowers, and I'm going to strategically stamp them what colors I like. So I want a little bit of pink, I want a little bit of yellow, I want a little bit of orange, whatever. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp them there. And then they have a coordinating die cut. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut those, and that kind of makes a really cool, fun, colored flower that you didn't have to color at all. At this point, you can find some prints that you still have lying around and see what you think goes together. So, I mean, there's a couple of different prints that I totally could have used for these flowers, but I'm going to go with this one that has a lot of pink in it, which I haven't pulled out yet. Come on, Laurel. Come on, Laurel. So this is how I work. I'm actually showing you the process of how I pull together cards in real time. This is exactly what I do. I went with this one. I liked the pink. More of the pink, less of the orange. I liked the background, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take some glue. I'm going to glue these flowers down. You can also pop them up with some foam dimension if you want to get, you know, a little bit more oomph out of your card, but I just went with the glue because it was out, and at this point, I was getting tired. Because I created so many backgrounds. I have so many more backgrounds too off to the side that I can make later, just whatever, in a mindless cutting session. I'll just grab my trimmer and just start cutting down backgrounds. So I'll adhere this together. Now this design was taken right out of the inspiration sheet that the stamp set provided from Altenew. I love that their stamps include inspiration guides with different samples of projects in it. So that's cool. Now here I'm saving the best for last because this is my favorite print. And if you stuck with me, then you get to see the best for last, in my opinion, anyway. I basically took that sheet and I cut it into 4 squares. I just cut it straight down the middle and straight down the middle and got 4 prints out of it. I just love this print. I will never be able to make it again, which is another cool thing. I guess that's a pro and con. If you really love something and you want to mass produce it, good luck. Because you probably won't get the same thing a second time. But the pro is you won't get the same thing a second time. So everything you make is completely unique and custom, right? So here I am. I'm just adding a little bit of blending here. I thought I'd tie in a little bit more black. I'm not going to show the process of each of these cards because that's basically just die cutting and adhering sentiment strips or die cuts down. But here's a look at these 4 cards here made from one print. So I think all in all, there's like 16 or 17 cards in today's video, but I have about 12 different prints that I still need to cut down and turn into cards. So you get your bang for your buck with the gel press, and you can use it with your card making. It's something that you can pull out and use once and once a month or whatever, and you'll get so many backgrounds. It's not even funny. You don't need multiple gel presses. You don't need multiple brayers. You really just need some acrylic paint, a brayer, and a gel press, and you can really have some fun. I think it's fun, it's artistic, it's easy, and by God, you can make a lot of backgrounds, can't you? Check out this video right here below, and I'll see you there.